So one of our main theories, or one of our starting theories that we need to know inside out, just like the rest, is functionalism. And I feel like most of you are quite happy with functionalism as a perspective. It's the others that you struggle with. But we'll go through it anyway, make sure that we know it inside out, we've gone over it, so that we can leave it behind and move on. So it's a consensus theory. We're going to look at elements of functionalism. We're going to apply it to society. Again, that AO2 really does fall onto you. I have a little bank of AO2 that I can give you, that I can email over to people. But really, the textbook has loads that you can make some notes on, or even better, bringing in something contemporarily that links to British society at the moment. They love that in the exam. Then again, I have seen a whole essay where there has been no contemporary links. It's all just research based and still got full marks. So it's how you remember, how best that you want to go about AO2. So functionalism. When we talk about this macro-micro idea with sociological theory, it comes down to control. So if you have a macro approach, which functionalism is, it's all about the structures in society that have a massive impact on people. So you're looking at it from a top-down perspective. So our structural approaches are functionalism and Marxism and feminism. And then we split that further. We've got consensus approaches and conflict. So consensus, everybody agreeing, that's functionalism. And conflict is where we have unequal divisions in society. So that's our Marxism and that's feminism. A micro perspective then is what we'll look at in a few lessons' time. Social action theories and looking at postmodernism. These are looking at the bottom up. So how do people construct society that they live in? Why is it that people view situations differently and interpret things differently? So that is a micro bottom up, whereas functionalism, top down, macro. Best thing to do is draw it out, something like this. Have it on a nice bit of visual A3. Different colours for structural, interpretivist, conflict, consensus. And stick that somewhere so you know the difference, because those key terms are what give you the marks. So if you're sort of on the cusp of, oh dear God, if you're sort of on the cusp of a B or a C, having those key terminology, defining them well will boost your marks. Okay, so it's knowing and describing them. Don't just put down a macro approach, explain what that means. Don't just say conflict, what is the conflict? That will really boost your marks. So the next slides are just a little bit more AO1 that you'll need for this section. So functionalism, what it talks about in terms of society is this idea of the organic analogy. So how the society works like a human body. The body's got vital organs, just like society has vital institutions. These can be things like the healthcare system, education, law enforcement. They play a fundamental role in society and they work together. So the organs, the institutions, they work interdependently. So they need each other to exist. You can't have one without the other. Otherwise, you'll be in a case of anomie, a case of chaos, and we won't be able to come back from that. So all the small units of the body, just like society, work together. They work as one to provide us with a smooth running way of living. Just like organs, they have certain functions. They have some certain prerequisites in which they fulfill. And that's the same in society. So each of those institutions play a fundamental role. So the education system provides individuals with the knowledge to go and succeed, to go and provide for society. They have certain roles, just like in the body. So it's quite an interesting metaphor. Came in by Durkheim, our most fundamental functionalists, our big functionalist. And our key bit basically, let's put all this up actually, is that it revolves around everybody. So it's a consensus perspective. The basis of functionalism is that everybody agrees with what is going on in society. Everybody has value consensus, which we'll look at in a minute. So the key word, function. Everything benefits society. It benefits people. So it's much more important than an individual, because everybody's job is to ensure that it functions and it survives. If we didn't have society, we didn't have those functions, then it would eventually die out. What would happen? There'd be absolute chaos. So it's essential that people agree, that it's based on consensus. So we've got collective consciousness, value consensus, and social solidarity. There are three main key terms for functionalism. We spoke about it already, but value consensus, everybody agreeing with the same morals, the same ideas. Social solidarity, everybody coming together and working as one. And collective conscious. Yeah, a collective conscious. Conscience. Yeah. Oh God. I need a cup of tea. Is again all about social solidarity. Everybody being as one, agreeing. They're interchangeable, those three key terms. But make sure, look in the book, define them properly, make sure they make sense. Okay. Let's pull that up. So, some more key terms then. Our collective consciousness, our social solidarity, value consensus, these have got to be constantly reinforced so that value consensus doesn't erode away or atrophy, so die out basically. So in order to do this, we've got to have strict rules within society, positive and negative sanctions. So people know when they've broke the law, they've done something wrong, there's going to be a negative consequence. Or, when they're providing a service or they're working together, they get a positive sanction. That could be things like a bonus at work or something. So think to yourself then, how could functionalism potentially be critiqued? If we think of it from a crime perspective, do we have value consensus? If we've got people committing crime, are people adhering to the rules that are in society? Not necessarily. So functionalism is trying to emphasise harmony, unity, integration, everybody in this, pulling them together, working together for kind of like, as Hot Fuzz would say, the greater good. But is that true? It's questionable. Just like Marxism and feminism, it's a grand meta-narrative theory. And what that means is because it is a structural approach, because it's looking at how society affects people, it's like a big story. It's a grand meta-narrative of society. Okay, another key term that you can whack in there. Then we look at functionalism everywhere. Crime and deviance, beliefs, education, family. So it's trying to apply some of the functionalist views into those other topics for those synoptic links. So just as Durkheim is one of our main functionalists, we've also got Parsons, who comes in combining the ideas of Durkheim to try and develop an understanding of society and how it works. So Parsons' functionalist and central question is about social order. So how is social order possible? How are individuals able to cooperate harmoniously? And do they? So social order is achieved through shared culture, a shared set of norms and values that we all have in society. If we think of a shared norm, queuing is a shared norm. We all do that without even realising it. But things like breaking the law and different criminal acts, some people decide to engage in, some people don't. So they go against some of the shared, laws that we have in society. Parsons calls that value consensus. So it's the glue that holds society together. It's everybody agreeing. So 4 basic needs that Parsons says that societies have, or that they need to function. I think I've got them. Have I got them here? No. So if you go back into the textbook, which I have attached on Show My Homework, make a note on those. What are the 4 basic needs that society needs to function? Write them down, maybe get an example of each before you come back and have a look at the slide. And what these needs are GALE. That's the only acronym out there to help us remember it. Maybe you could go with Andrew grows in... I have no idea. Alex Gale. I don't know. Have a think. See if you can think of another acronym. If not, Gale is good. So we've got adaptation, which is an economic function. Society needs to provide a standard of living. There's got to be something that keeps us going. Like a basic minimum wage, we've got to have a standard of living. Goal attainment, which is our political function. So ways of making decisions. We've got to have something fair in society so that some people aren't overriding it and taking control, so that it's fair. Integration, so each institution develops in response to function. They have to work together for social harmony. And latency is about beliefs and values. So pattern maintenance, problems faced when we've got conflicting demands of them, and tension management. How do we have, or why is it that we need motivation for people to belong to society? So this is what makes up a society, those 4 basic needs. What I've given you then is a worksheet on social change, which is on there. So take 2 colours, identify different patterns and variables of traditional and modern society. So 1 colour for traditional, 1 colour for modern, and then you've got a couple of questions there. So according to Parsons, how do societies change from being a traditional to a modern? And then what is this idea of structural differentiation? Another good bit of key terminology for this section. So pause it, do it, don't cheat, and then come back. So you've got traditional societies with pattern variables that are distinct of something as traditional. So the status that they have is ascribed from birth. You've got relationships, so they're usually like a mother and child. Collective orientation, put the needs of the group first. Whereas in a modern society, it's more independent. Everybody's treated the same way. We've got contractual relationships, like employer and employee, so something that isn't sort of like a traditional relationship. And the status is earned or achieved through hard work. Okay, so where is it that this changes? This question then, a 10 marker, which I know you struggle with quite a bit. 5 marks for your AO1, 3 for your AO2 and 2 for your AO3. Outline and assess the contribution of functionalism to the understanding of society. So what you can do before you plan for this is look at the 3 sociologists that we've got here, Durkheim, Parsons and Merton as well, which is also in the textbook. What is their USP? What do they bang on about? What examples can you apply to this idea? And then what are some strengths and limitations? So I do like flashcards for each of these, Durkheim, Parsons, Merton. Give a summary of what they said and some critiques of it, then have a go at answering that question. Again, I'll only set you 1 homework a week, but if you want to do more, if you want to do these questions, send them over to me. They're not going to put you at a disadvantage in any way. Okay, right, where are we now? So internal and external criticisms, what I've put together is an A3 worksheet, which is also on Show My Homework. So it's basically looking, what are some of the internal problems with functionalism? So one being it's incredibly outdated. It's not really relevant anymore. And then what are some external criticisms? So what do other people say is a problem with it? So action, perspective and postmodernist you'll see on there. We haven't looked at yet, so I'd leave them blank and come back to them when we finish them. But one's already been done for you, that's Merton. You've got a logical So in terms of the logistics of functionalism, what is an internal and an external problem with functionalism? And then how would another perspective go away and critique it? So you can bring in Marxism. You're all quite confident on feminism. You could talk about that there as well. So do just a little bit of planning to look at some of those criticisms. Then we'll do these two when we've looked at them. Then, okay, I think... Yes, so that's essentially functionalism. I do some planning, have a look at some AO3, and then I get together a good bulk of AO2 you can apply it to.